Welcome back. This is episode number 15 of the Darkness to Light broadcast, and welcome back those who are coming back for more, very much appreciated. Kind of struggling a wee bit to squeeze in these at the minute, the timing of what's going on just now within the work within the Vortex and with the Scottish Tour specifically. The weekends, this is the fourth weekend coming up, this weekend coming, and when you add into everything else that's going on and then the weekends away, it's been a wee bit manic just trying to kind of squeeze everything in. And as always, the intention is to report where I am, what's going on within the work, what's going on, which is the easiest way I've always found to do it. I'm just really reporting my journey, my story, how I'm doing, what I'm doing on this intentional journey. And on the back of Air last week, and then looking forward to Loch Lomond this Sunday, there's so many things in so many different areas that I would like to talk about. So much expansion, so much new stuff coming through, new people coming in, getting around about this work, getting around about this experience. And deciding what I'm going to talk about and how I'm going to do it and what's next. There's no really any kind of sequence, there's no really plan in terms of where I'm going with it. I'm really just kind of reporting week to week, depending on what's coming up, which has always been the easiest way for me. If you see the stuff that I do online, you've been following it over the last kind of 5 or 6 years, with the poems and the posts and the work that I'm doing. It's really just me documenting what's going on with me. And this one, number 15, is going to be about healing and recovery. I mentioned on here a few times, and anybody that knows me knows that I'm on a healing journey myself. It's been a long time. It started in probably January 1997 was when it started for me, in terms of the intentional life and trying to heal myself and looking for ways to get myself back to on an even keel, and then beyond that. And the journey continues, it really does, and the work that I'm doing with people, the stuff that I'm sharing, it's really just the stuff that I picked up along the way on my own healing journey. And it's fascinating to watch the way that it comes through and the way that it's evolved for me, the way that it's developed into this entire system now that I call the programme, and how it's helping people in so many different ways that if you'd have told me this during my journey, probably the first 10 years was the main phase for me in terms of healing and recovery in myself. If you had told me that at the time, the work that I'd be doing now and how it was going to help people, it's fascinating to watch it. For the first 17 or 18 years, the singular intention was for me to get it for myself, to heal myself, to discover who I really was, to discover what this life experience was all about. That was it. There was nothing else. There was no intention or agenda, to get it for myself and then pass it on or turn it into a business or none of that at all. Really, when I really got it for myself, which was probably in the beginning, to heal myself, my physical body, to heal my mind, to heal, my heart, my soul, my spirit. That was probably the first 10 years of intentional work. And that phase, it was really kind of a very selfish process, the modalities, the teachers I got round about, the techniques, the therapies, all holistic. It was really with the singular desire to heal myself. And after probably 10 years, I probably got to that space. And then the next probably 7 or 8 years, was really, once I really kind of found that kind of balanced space, then it was all about, the spiritual, devotional path, until eventually 17, 18 years in, when I had the really profound, metaphysical experience and transforming experience where, I believe that I got it, I got what I came here to get in this lifetime. But, again, during that whole phase, there was never any real desire, to pass it on or to help people. I was probably doing it in a way, whether it was the people I was working beside or the training that I was doing in terms of the physical training. At the time I was training martial arts, I was training for ultra distance running, I was doing ultra distance cycling, I was training to do eventually I did my first Ironman, and then I did 3 full distance Ironmen kind of almost back to back. Within about 4 years, so I missed a year, so 2010 to 2014 I did 3 full distance Ironmen each summer, and really the way that I was learning to become a coach was really just sharing what I was doing. So you're sitting on the bike, we used to get out and cycling for between 70 and 100 miles, that was fairly regular, 200-300 miles a week. At one point I was running 100 miles a week, I was swimming 3 times a week. I was at martial arts 3 times a week at certain points. So the people I was spending time with, as well as during the day at work when I was going about, doing my surveyor job and meeting people in their homes, all I was really doing was really sharing the stuff that I was basically using to help myself, to heal myself. And it's fascinating, when I look back and the amount of people that would ask, strangers a lot of the time, most of the time in fact, different with the people I was training with, I kind of got to know them personally, but the people I was meeting in my business and in my work day to day, most of them were strangers, and the conversation from them, it was never really led by me, would normally feed into the stuff that I was working on, funnily enough, so things like mental health, things like anxiety, things like depression, people that were struggling. On occasion, you would go into somebody's home and you would see, how they were doing, and a lot of the times, when you simply ask somebody, well, how's it going, how you doing, then that gives them the opportunity to get it up and to get it out. And I found that happening more and more often. And I suppose I've learned to become a coach really through doing that. The stuff that I was working on myself, no matter what it was, right at the beginning, with the basic awarenesses and personal development and the different teachers I was blessed with, that I really just learned, by repetition and learning and listening and reading and, on this really kind of intentional path to heal myself and to, I suppose, fulfill my potential. Very quickly on, I realised there was way more that was available to me that I didn't really know about before. When I went on that journey, the self-discovery and then the expansion, the intentional expansion, when I really started to get it, then the people that were showing up, I was just sharing the stuff that I'd picked up and the things that had helped me along the way. So fascinating now, driving down to Ayr on Sunday past, and in Aberdeen, probably more so the week before, thinking about driving up to Aberdeen and, putting on a free event on the beach and just being, ready and prepared and able, to present something that I know helps so many people in so many ways. Really grateful on the way up to Aberdeen. There was a lot of tears on the way up to Aberdeen, there really was. I could feel my mum. She would have loved that, the Scottish tour and getting up and helping people for free. She would have lapped that up. And I could really feel her as I was driving up the kind of 3-hour drive on the way up, and kind of just thinking about her and contemplating, the fact that she's not here anymore and thinking about my journey, when she was here and now the stuff that I'm now doing, just pitching up on the beach with a microphone and a speaker and these tools and techniques with the single desire to help people. It's been a fascinating journey, and again heading down to Ayr at the weekend. The exact same again, driving down to Ayr, with this mission, this plan to help as many people as we can get back and reconnect back to the way it's meant to be. The challenge that I see with the world just now, I watched it again last night. I tuned into a couple of different things last night. I don't spend a lot of time online, I really don't. The stuff that I watch is mostly for fun. I never really looked at any other teachers, haven't done that for a long time. All the books, all the kind of the lessons that I learned, on my own journey. That probably stopped probably 7, 8, 9 years ago, where I stopped really looking to the external to find my own answers. I get all my answers basically sitting in meditation, sitting in silence. I get into spirit every single day, and the inspiration comes through, and the expansion that comes from that, and the way that I'm basically doing this work. I never really get it. In fact, I never ever get it from anybody else, not for a long time. In the beginning, absolutely. I'd find myself quoting Wayne Dyer or something that Anthony Robbins had said, or no matter who it was, all the different teachers I was blessed with. But for the last probably 7, 8, 9 years, it's really just been about the way that I'm doing it and the way that I've developed this system, this program for myself, and then passing that on. And Ayr at the weekend, it was interesting leading up to it. We had a wee bit of drama, and it's just fascinating. When things happen, you don't really sometimes you don't see the patterns. And I got a message probably the Thursday night from Michael and Fern, who were down at Ayr, setting up and basically doing the work before we got there. And basically saying that there was a danger to life, the water quality, and basically the condition of the sea. You weren't allowed to get into it. And it got me thinking straight away, about the previous, it was certainly last year, I'm pretty sure the year before as well, where you weren't allowed to get into the water. And straight away when I heard that, it was like, okay, fair enough. And straight away, the drama, people that are supposed to be coming, people that are coming in, looking forward to the event. We had over 250, I believe, signed up on Sunday. there was 80, just under 80 that actually that they came, and thank you to all of you who took the time to come on Sunday morning. Again, the numbers, you get whatever you get, the sign up numbers, there's normally between a half and a third that actually shows up. And so many people messaged, which was really interesting, down at air, apologising and genuine reasons, and no excuses, but genuine reasons why they couldn't come. Obviously, you get the people as well that they can't be bothered, or they've had a bit of a heavy night the night before, and for whatever reason. So thanks to the people that messaged us, the emails and the messages that came in, just explaining why you couldn't make it. That's really very much appreciated. But we had 80 that showed up. The sun was splitting the trees all the way down. I left here probably 6:30, 7:15. It was battering the rain all the way down. And then the minute I got you come down through, and I got to the roundabout at Air, I kind of stopped, and by the time we got to the beach, the sun was out, and it didn't actually start raining, and this is it's fascinating how this goes together. It really is. But it didn't start raining. When I zipped up the bag, right at the very end, the final bag that I zipped up, I felt the kind of rain starting to come on. It didn't really come to anything, but it was just interesting. That whole time we were just off the beach in the wee kind of the big grass between the sea and then the homes. We were on the kind of the grass park, a kind of mound, just to get out the window a wee bit, and it was just interesting, watching the people that came, the presentation that they came through me, which is always very, very different. Always lends to the same place. I'm always trying to take people to the same place and take them through this intentional journey, this process that. Again, I've been thinking a lot about that, what it is that I'm doing, and what's the intention with it, and how does it help so many people, what's the reasons as to how it goes together, and why it enables people to get to that place that I know exists. Air was a fantastic day. It was really very, very different. A whole the spectrum of people, from the young ones up to people probably in their 70s, mostly women. Again, interesting, always has been, except for the period during lockdown, right at the beginning of the lockdown when the pubs and the football was closed, but it was all men. The vortex was just swarmed with men, but it's mostly women that seem to find a way around about this work, which is something that I've always found fascinating, and that's obvious to me for many, many reasons. The feminine energy, and how open women are, and you look at the stuff that I'm teaching and the stuff that I'm sharing, and the way that I'm doing it. I can understand how a lot of men, it's no for them. I get that. It's a fascinating process to watch how it goes together. And the session itself and the experience itself, I've been thinking a lot about that in terms of what it is I'm doing and the way that I put it together, and how it comes through, and my intention with it. The intention's everything, isn't it? And this work, this process, these tools, these techniques, this programme, primarily it's a vehicle, tools for healing and recovery. And that's what this podcast is about. This podcast is about healing and recovery, number 15. And the way that it unfolds and the way that I do it, this is where it's very, very different, from the way a lot of people are doing it. The Thursday night when the water was closed, I did a wee video online and basically put it up, basically saying, look, it's not about the cold exposure. I think in the beginning, right at the very start, when I got around about the cold in 2016, especially when I kind of trained under Wim Hof in 2017, and especially as vocal as I was about it, I was in the rivers every day for about probably 18 months. Just after that, when I got involved in the kind of Heal Scotland movement at the time, and I was doing live videos, the first live videos I'd ever done, where it was basically standing at the side of a river, and for about 18 months, right through the winter time, rain, hail, snow, shine, I was in the rivers every single day, basically talking about how to breathe, to basically how the breathwork was going to help, mental health, how it helped with physical well-being, the benefits I was experiencing, and then obviously the cold exposure as well. I was one of the first in the country, one of the first in the world actually, to teach and take the groups into the water. It's funny me see the big groups now, the big circles. I believe I was the first person in the country to do that. We brought it back we did the Wim Hof method training in Poland, where they basically, one of the nights you put you into a kind of alpine snowmelt running kind of stream, perishingly cold, just absolutely brutal, and we all formed a circle, and it was like a meditation for 10 minutes in this circle. And I can't even remember whether I'd done that before I went over to Poland, but certainly I came back, any time that I put anybody in any kind of body of water, the larger groups, probably with Heal Scotland was the first time it was like big groups, so people like 50 and up, up to like 100 people at the time. I was putting people, and then it would be like in a circle, everybody connected as one, sitting in the cold. I would normally be in the middle just watching where people are so I could see everybody. And at the weekend, the thought of like not having the possibility to use the cold, it got me thinking a lot about, what it is I'm actually doing. And over the last couple of years, obviously since COVID and since lockdown and all the different water groups that are going on, all these cold water groups and cold water enthusiasts, and all these kind of different groups that are using cold water exposure, it's all good, it's fantastic. Cold exposure is so good for us in so many different ways. The way that it benefits me every single day, I was in it again this morning, sitting in the ice this morning, early, probably probably 6:45, 7 o'clock, cold shower, then sitting in an ice bath outside, and just feeling the benefits that experience within my physical body. And so good in so many different ways. If you know how to do it properly, you know how to do it safely, the benefits are incredible. I would recommend them to anybody who is a good working order in terms of physical health. Specifically for me, mental health and physical pain, there's something that happens within that cold, and we understand how the science goes together, and the way that I do it, which is part of a kind of spiritual practice, it's a quiet practice, the way that I use cold exposure. It's a literal gift, I've been watching it for an awful long time. First time I saw it was a man called Hickson Gracie over in Japan back in 1997, 1998 was the first time I saw it. This bronze Adonis UFC, it wasn't a UFC fighter, he was a mixed martial artist, he was fighting over in Japan at the time. And watching him, just this bronze Brazilian, like a god, undefeated. I think he was undefeated in 500 fights, he claims, ish. And watching him in the snow, doing this really almost like a power breathing, as Wim Hof would call it, like a fire breath, generating heat with his breath, and then sitting in the alpine snowmelt. And there was no adverse effects. That was the first time it ever caught my attention. And then obviously when I came across Wim Hof and how much that changed my life, the cold exposure, I was in the cold 3-4 times a day. And then over the next probably 2, 3, 4 years, it was a huge part of the vortex and the work that was doing. Anybody that was coming here, that were expecting, it was certainly part of it to go in the cold, to learn how to do cold exposure. And then when COVID came, and the amount of people basically had to stop and were looking for different things to do, then the amount of instructors or people that were enthusiasts who became instructors, called themselves instructors, and all these groups that started to open up. It was interesting for me to watch how people were using it, the amount of ego that was involved in it. Especially from some of the teachers, the self-gain that people were getting with their cold practice, the amount of them that they had no idea what they were doing. I spent the best part of, it was an entire year really, training under Wim Hof within that system. Obviously my own practice, the initial 10 weeks every single day, and then over to Wim's house for a couple of days to learn the science, which at the time I remember thinking, look, why am I here? What am I doing? I just want to sit in the ice, but really important, the things that you learn in terms of how it goes together. And then spending an entire week over in Poland, up in those, just brutal conditions, wind chill factor, just life-threatening conditions where you learn how the body goes together and how to do it safely, and how the breathwork feeds into that, how the science goes together. So it's been an interesting process for me watching the cold exposure, the amount of people that have came here. I could name dozens of them that have been here, whether it's an open group or whether they've came to the Vortex and they come for 1 or 2 sessions, and all of a sudden they become like a cold water expert, really with no any training or any experience, just their own practice. And then they think that's them qualified to then go and put people on the cold. That's something that used to bother me. It hasn't for a long time now, and really because the work that I'm doing, it's a tiny wee bit of what it is that I actually do in here, and because the water was closed at the weekend, it was supposed to be closed at the weekend. Again, that's another interesting story. We got there and basically all the signs had been up, the previous 3 or 4 days about, danger to life, and it was in the papers and it was in the news and people were flipping out and all that kind of good stuff. And then we got there, it was just funny, Michael was smiling, basically saying like the beaches are open, water quality good, and the sun was shining, so it was as if we'd been, again, almost like some sort of divine intervention that enabled us to use the cold, which wasn't cold at all, the sea wasn't cold at all. It was probably sitting, mid-teens, the temperature. Anything under 18 degrees is enough for cold exposure, so it was enough, especially for people that had never been in before. But in terms of it being like proper cold exposure, then there's many different levels to that. From 18 degrees, where what I learned from Wim Hof and the science behind that was anything under 18 degrees. Again, I've not checked the science since, but that's what he told us. I should maybe check that, because a lot of the stuff he taught us, it was, I don't know where it came from, certainly not the science books, but the cold exposure at the weekend, the sea itself, and the possibility of not getting into it, and the amount of people that were really looking forward to that. It's got me thinking a lot about what it is I'm doing and what this process is within the Vortex. What's my intention with this mission? What's the plan with this mission? And it's not about the cold. It really isn't. The process that I'm taking people through, the experience that my plan is to give to people. When we lie them down, it's all about the reconnection back into the self. It's all about the reconnection back into the true self, the authentic self, back into your heart, and then back into your soul, and a wee bit of kind of the uncertainty as to whether we could use the cold, and then me thinking, how much do I actually need it? How much do I actually, with this work that I'm doing, this process that I'm taking people through, I had a realisation that I don't actually need the cold. I've known that for a long time, but the big events, I think people are expecting it. But also puts a lot of people off. It turns a lot of people away, the thought of going in and sitting in cold water. That's not for everybody, and that's always, for me, it's been a wee bit of a shame, because it's never really been about the cold, certainly for the last, but I suppose with the Vortex and what I've been doing and seeing people come and sitting in the ice, and I've used that a lot as well, to promote the business and give people this gift of cold exposure. But it's just a wee bit of what it is that I actually do. It's absolutely more about, it's actually all about the reconnection process, and then once that reconnection process takes place, then it's all about the intentional life. It's all about taking back control, seeing things from a different perspective, and then how you use all the different modalities to get to that place that's available to each and every one of us. So it's fascinating again how that unfolded. And speaking to Michael and Fern, Michael was straight away. He's like, why did we, because what's came from this is a desire to do workshops without cold exposure, and Michael was like, why have we never really thought of this before? Because I think also a lot of people lump me in with the different cold water and the ice groups. On the group the week before, a lady messaged straight away, and the question was, are the instructors qualified? Which was a great question. Of course it is. I'm always going on about people being not qualified and doing it for the wrong reasons, whether it's for their ego or whether it's for their obviously for their business or for their income. So I'm all about that. I believe that you need to be teaching from experience. But straight away, because of a couple of the words that she used, she was talking about resets, and then straight away, I'm thinking about the polar bears up in Glasgow, and she was questioning me and my abilities, and then advising me to go and look up the polar bears. And I saw the polar bears way back, right when they came out at the beginning. The lad that runs it sent me a friend request, and I tuned in straight away, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. It was like Wim Hof on steroids, the hyperventilation, and then the resets, as they call them. The dunking the head up and down under the ice. 100 resets, and it was one of my students that was coming here at the time that I watched. She was here for a good period of time, and again, it's a tool for healing. The way that I do cold exposure is part of an entire system, and certainly in terms of the ego, which I could see within the pictures, people jumping up and down, people getting held and stuck in the ice and almost forced into the ice for extended periods of time. At the time, the lady that was doing it called it extreme cold exposure. And for me, anything over a minute and a half to 2 minutes, once you get the stress, the reset comes in and you basically receive the dump of stress. At that point, it's always been done for me. I watched a lad come up here who was there's an advanced Wim Hof method course. Guy came to see me down at the river. Actually, the second day I was doing the Heal Scotland stuff, I was down at the river, and he showed up. And he was with me every single day for about 18 months. Then he became a Wim Hof method instructor. And there was an advanced Wim Hof method course, where part of it was to sit in the ice. I believe at the time it might have been 20 minutes, and this is going back probably 3 years ago, and at the time I didn't like it, but he was a hardly bit of stuff, ex-army, on absolutely a healing journey, his own life, his own trauma, the stuff that he'd been through, his desire to go through it. So I helped him do it, and I watched him, and this was a man with a really kind of a proper practice, educated himself. I taught him. He was training under the Wim Hof method banner at the time, and I watched him sitting in the ice for 20 minutes, and the ego in terms of like not why he was doing it, but why they were doing it, I always questioned. And I watched what happened once I got out. It was a baking hot day right in the middle of summertime. It was before I had the wooden tub, so you're going back probably 3-4 years, and I watched how long it took his body to recover. and to get back again, to get back to normal. Like the hypothermia, absolutely, and it was way too much. The stress that he was putting himself under, I couldn't see the benefits in it, unless it was just to say that you've done it. Again, that's the ego. So it was interesting, this lady that commented and recommending me to go and play with the polar bears, and then the lad that runs the polar bears basically, putting his point in, basically saying, well, we'll welcome him up and we'll sit down and we'll get a cup of tea, and I'm like, I'm not interested at all in any of that stuff. The reasons and the why and the intention behind it, and I know that they're helping a lot of people. I know that what the cold exposure does, but the way that they do it, it's absolute insanity to me. It's madness, the way that they use it. So what's your reasons, what's your why, always. And really at that point, I'm thinking a lot about, how people see me as still, because I was one of the first in the world cold exposure experts. I certainly trained with experts, the science team with Wim Hof and Wim Hof himself, and my own practice, which has been every single day almost since 2016. Recently, over the last year or so, I don't take it or leave it. It's there if I need it and my body requires it, then I will use it. I'm blessed because I've got the ice bath here set up 24/7 because of the people I'm taking through it as part of the different tools and techniques. But I don't feel that real need to get into it every single day the way that I used to. And it's something that I do use. It's something that does benefit me. And the fact that I know that it's there is fantastic. But it's not what I'm all about. I am absolutely not I'm not pushing the cold to anybody. And in fact, a lot of the time I kind of take it away because it doesn't really need to be about that. So at the weekend when we couldn't get in the cold, at the beginning when we thought we weren't going to get in, then it really got me thinking about, right, okay, what is it I'm actually doing? What's the process? What's this? What's the mission? And the way that I'm doing it and the tools and the techniques that I'm using, the breath work is the most important part to me. That was the emphasis I made before here. It's all about the intentional breath. I learned how to breathe properly when I met Patrick McFadyen. 4 or 5 years ago, I met Patrick and realised that a lot of the stuff that I'd been learning from Wim Hof, it wasn't wrong. It's dysfunctional breathing, that's what Patrick McFadyen would call it. And the reasons that Wim does it is to generate massive amounts of stress, the change in the chemistry, bringing in the stress hormones. Wim's an adrenaline junkie, there's no question about it when you meet him, as a force and energy that he is when he talks about his world records, which I think realistically there's only maybe 1, 2 or 3. He used to talk about, he's got 25 world records, he's got 26 world records, I think at one point he had 27 world records, and always kind of didn't feel there was something right about that. But again, the stuff that he was talking about, the things he was doing, hanging off like air balloons and swimming under the ice and almost losing his life, and now what I know about him, an absolute adrenaline junkie. So the Wim Hof method, that type of hyperventilation, that type of just blowing your brains out with basically stress, that's what I saw and that I see with groups like the polar bears. And for me, after COVID, whether it's a virus or the vaccine itself, stress is the last thing that we need. Too much stress can kill people. Wim just had a court case booted out last week in America. I think it's gone on to the next stage, whatever that is in the American judicial system. But basically, people that are saying that because of this method, the amount of, the way that the chemistry changes within the body, there's a thing called shallow water blackout when, the carbon dioxide is so low within the body. That basically the brain can switch off, and then if your face is in the water, then the first thing you do is you take a big breath in, and so many people are drowning year after year. The amount of kind of elite athletes, swimmers that basically they've done their session, they've finished their race, and then they basically you see them get under, they take the hat off and they go under to the bottom of the pool because the carbon dioxide is so low, because they've been blown off all the carbon dioxide. When you put your face in the water and you go underneath, then the first thing you do, the brain switches off, and then you breathe in and you basically fill your lungs with water. So when I see things like resets, 100 resets, when I hear the stories of people going into these groups, that one specifically, about anxiety and people that are suffering from panic attacks, and then being forced to stay in the ice for extended periods of time, like 10 minutes. At that point, it's like I'm trying to get away from that as much as I can. That to me is in the wrong direction. It's great for some people, I get it. It's great for, I see it as another addiction. I know that group and many other groups, they use it for recovery. And healing and recovery, a lot of people think about recovery from addiction. Absolutely, I get that. So to fill one addiction with another, the stress hormones, the chemistry that's released is very, very addictive. So many people, myself included, over the years have been addicted to stress. Absolutely, you get it from so many different areas. The stress that comes from your food, the stress that comes from your thinking, the stress that comes from cold exposure, from really powerful breath work. Absolutely, that's very, very addictive. And it's too much for me. The way that it's done is way too much, and it's got me thinking a lot about what it is I'm actually doing, and the way this time we're in just now and what's required for the world. And I do not believe it's more stress. So the gift at the weekend of the water being closed as we thought it was going to be, and then it was open anyway, and then coming away and watching what happened during the breathwork. And this is where, I did it again at the weekend. I spoke about a disclaimer in terms of what to expect for people that come. And this is for anybody that's coming to any of my workshops, anything that I'm doing, especially the free stuff. It's different with people coming in here as a paid session or it's a professional gig in terms of whether it's corporate. There's always disclaimers and masses of documentation in terms of taking responsibility, and because what's happening is the way that I do this and the way that I take people through this process, it's a tool for healing. And I saw it again at the weekend. When I'm telling my story, all the stuff that I've been through, the traumas and the childhood stuff, and then the PTSDs and the vaccine damage and the things that I've basically carried during my lifetime, the healing journey that I've been on. There's stuff going to come up, and I saw it again at the weekend. The amount of tears at the weekend was just incredible. The amount of people that were able to find some relief, and you can see that through the tears. There was one lady in particular after the breathwork. She was all over the place. I could see it in her. She was a wee bit disorientated. During it, she was breaking her heart. I could see her breaking her heart. And then when the breathwork finished, she was a wee bit disorientated. When we went into the water, which wasn't even cold water, it really wasn't. The sea, it was a beautiful day, sun was shining. But when we came back, she was really all over the place, to the point where Michael, the first aider, dealt with her. We got some sugar into her, some honey and a banana. And then we even called an ambulance and they advised us to take her up, and she was totally fine. It was, for me, that's just stress being released. Stress, things are coming up, stuff that you're carrying, stuff that you're holding, and the stuff that I'm talking about when I'm telling my story. I've got so many different t-shirts for different things that have happened to me. That's what this journey's been about. It's been transcending the stuff, transcending the things, no matter what it is, the traumas and all the different stuff that I've dealt with, the PTSDs and the damage that I did to myself and that others did to me. So when I'm talking about that, obviously it's going to bring up, if you're sitting listening in that state, that open state, when you then go into the breath work, you need to be aware that the reason that I'm doing it, there's an intention behind it. It's not just to come and go through breath work. That's not what it's about. It's not even just to give you the gift of functional breathing. The intention is to get it up, whatever it is, whatever's holding you back, so whatever it could be the trauma, it could be, the heartache, it could be the heartbreak, it could be the decimation, this can take you all the way back. I say often, the unconscious mind remembers every single thing that's ever happened, and that's a blessing and a curse. So when you come in and you lie down and you go deep inside yourself, and we stop your head, when you stop yourself thinking, and we get back into the heart and reconnect back into the soul and back into that space, then things are going to come up. The intention is for stuff to come up. And the reason that, I'm very comfortable doing that, and this probably started really seeing it when I was overtraining with Wim Hof. For 5 or 6 days, every morning, early in the morning time, 4:30, 5, 6 in the morning, before the day began, there was a wee alpine burn, freezing cold, running off the mountain, so freezing snow melt basically, freezing cold, into the burn, and then they put you into this literal dungeon under the hotel, a basement in the hotel, and then for between an hour and a half and 2 hours, it would just be really powerful, like power breathing as they would call it, round after round of, hyperventilation, taking in as much as you can, blowing out as much as you can, taking big breaths in, like changing the chemistry massively, dumping in huge amounts of stress, like taking the breath in, holding it and squeezing it into the centre of your brain, DMT, pressurising the pineal gland. It was like a trip every single morning. And on the back of that, what I found myself doing for that entire week was the stuff that was coming up, the amount of childhood trauma that was coming up, the amount of stuff that people had possibly never even considered. They were there to basically become Wim Hof method instructors, but many of them, certainly the ones that I came in contact with, the stuff that was coming up, it's like, then what do you then do when it does come up? And for me, the reason I do the breath work, the reason I take people on that journey is so that we can get it up. Because once we get it up, because of my spiritual practices, because of the way that I do believe healing takes place, then at the end, once we get it up, which happens by acknowledging it, you get a lot of people to go through the experience again, but once you acknowledge it, once you almost kind of sometimes relive it, that's the opportunity to basically get it up and get it out, maybe for the final time, and eventually let it go. Because once you let it go and that space has been created, once you see things from a different perspective, you might actually see the reasons that it happened or why it happened to you, or somebody else's kind of take on it, and you maybe see it in a different way that's maybe different from the way that you thought that it happened. But once we get it up and we get it out, then with the love and the light and the grace and the goodness is divine, so the meditation process, when you go back inside your heart and back inside your soul, it doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter what you're dealing with. Once we get it up and get it out, then the plan is absolutely to replace it, and that's where the meditation process takes place. So an absolute disclaimer for anybody that's coming in, especially for Loch Lomond or any events that I'm going to be doing in the future, it's heavy stuff, this is heavy work. This isn't just lying down and I'm going to take you through some guided relaxation breath work. The language that I use, we're going deep inside, right into the essence, into your heart, into your soul, into everything that you're carrying, all the luggage that you're basically bringing in with you, the stresses, the strains, the memories, the programs, the belief systems, the traumas. There's an opportunity within these sessions to get it up and to get it out, because it doesn't matter what it is, whatever it is, once you get it out and you let it go, the miracles that can take place within the body happens very, very quickly, but then it's how you replace them, and it's by the replacing process, it's by bringing in that really kind of spiritual experience, the reconnection back to how you're meant to feel, and then once we start to climb the scale of how you're able to feel, once you're in your heart and you're not able to think, once you're in your feelings and your emotions and you remember feelings like being joyful and being happy and reconnecting back into love, reconnecting back to the self, back into your heart and back into your soul, then the whole process, you need to get it up and out first so you can go through that. So that's why I'm doing it. That's the reasons I'm doing it. It's a tool for healing, and during that process it can get a wee bit bumpy. It really can. It can get a wee bit messy. Tears can absolutely come up. The amount of tears that we've seen over the last 3 weeks, and I expect them again at Loch Lomond on Sunday, it's a tool for healing. It's a chance to get stuff up. Anything that's holding you back, anything that's causing you resistance, anything that's making you feel anything other than the way you're able to feel and supposed to feel, I do believe then there's an opportunity to get it up, to get it out, and then the plan is to replace it. So that's the plan again for Loch Lomond on Sunday. It's all about healing and recovery for me just now. The amount of people that are suffering, the amount of people that are struggling, the amount of people that are lost basically in this system, whether it's the therapy, horror stories I've heard this week, the amount of people that are suicidal, that are going to therapists, the therapists as Richard Banley used to call them. I heard that in 1997 for the first time. And these therapists, with the best of their intentions, like getting in and talking about childhood trauma and reliving childhood trauma, and going back and going back inside your body and see whoever it is, whatever they did to you, or how it affected you, and then so you can basically you're basically reliving it, and now. Now what I know, over these years of right at the very beginning when it started, going back in and looking in and trying to explain or make sense as to the reasons why I was damaged, or why I wasn't well, or why I was fecked. Then when you go back and relive it, then nothing really gets better for that space. So I think it's an opportunity to get it up and to get it out once and for all, and then never talk about it or really tell your story ever again, unless it's as really an example instead of being a warning. When the more you go back and the more you look at it, the amount of therapy that basically people go back and regress back to childhood and spend their time, trying to make sense of stuff that happened 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, and hoping in some way that they're going to get beyond that. That to me is an impossibility. So we get it up and we get it out, but then absolutely, the intention is to replace it. And that's where, this work, I believe it's absolutely, it happens very, very quickly, but it's unique to me, it's original to me, it's a way that I've learned how to do it on my own. And it's coming through me, absolutely, through inspiration, the expansion that takes place with this work every single day. It's happened again a couple of times this week. The people that I've been working with, and then the people that we're attracting. The intention is absolutely to take it to the world, to help as many people as we can, which is obviously going to take certain things to be in place. That's been a kind of slow, gradual process with the programme and writing the programme, designing the programme, making the programme now online, which is every single day. So we've now got a support network. We have the community, which is really an intentional community where people are coming in. And first and foremost, to begin with, absolutely it's all about the healing, but then very quickly let's try to get back to that place how it's able to be. We're trying to get to that place of absolute thrival, where everybody's flying, which takes a wee bit of time. The healing journey and what's involved in that, it takes a wee bit of time. But it doesn't matter what you're coming in with. That's the thing. It doesn't matter, where it's coming from or how you picked it up, or what the perceived damage is. I do believe there's a way to get back. Maybe not to the way that you came in. So this divine, that essence, that innocence of a child, divine perfection in every way, completely unspoiled. Once you come into this realm, this human experience, it's a matter of time before it gets you. Whether it's the medical procedures when you're born, the poisons and the medications that they put into a lot of people now. I'm all about safe vaccination, but let's be honest. A lot of people are affected, myself included. Speaking from my own experience. So whether it's the medications, whether it's the hospital process, even the birthing process itself, even with the mammy's eating and the stress that she's surrounded by before you're brought into this world. The amount of studies done on that, the stress that's basically the baby experiences when it's inside the womb. And then when you come into the world, the school system, the way that the world is just now, and the way that it's set up, the environment, the home environment, which for so many is so challenging. The amount of people that come from broken homes, the amount of people that have been in care, the amount of people that have not been cared for properly, or even basic things like the necessities that we're supposed to have as human beings, like being loved and looked after. The amount of people that come into this world and don't have that. So at some point, no matter what it is, the environment, the school system, this place that we're living in, you start to look into the circus, as I call it, or the zoo. It looks like just now, the sexualisation of children, the dramatisation of our life, the fears that we're living in. Even for a child that is not really aware of that, if the parents are going about looking at the news every day and worried about mortgage payments or trying to find their rent or trying to find enough money to put food on the table or worrying about their job, obviously that stress that's in that environment, of course it affects the child. So every single one of us is affected. There's no question about it. It's nigh on impossible, unless you were born on a desert island somewhere away from this world, in the middle of nowhere, and you had everything you needed to get through this world. And other people's stuff, the environment that we're in, of course it's going to affect you negatively. So I think this is coming up a lot just now, like, can you get back to the way that it's meant to be? And I don't really believe that you can. Possibly you can, but it's very, very rare, I do believe. I believe it's possible to get beyond it, whatever it is that's happened to you, and get back to a way and back to a place of, the best that you can absolutely make it, the best that you can make it. That would be, best case scenario for a lot of people. Transcending, whatever it is that's happened. And as I've mentioned a few times this week to people I'm working with, I don't believe there's ever anything in vain. We've signed up for this life experience, I do believe, for whatever reason. We've come in to get it for ourselves, and everybody's on their own mission. But the stuff that happens, and certainly the people I'm standing beside, when you get on about this work, and you start to see things from a different perspective, you start to find forgiveness, to them. Maybe it's forgiveness for yourself. You start to see that possibly things had to happen, to enable you. That's certainly been my journey, the things that I went through, the stuff that I came through. There's not a single bit of it being in vain. Why? Because what I get to now do and share with people that have been through similar stuff, and also offer not just hope, because hope I believe is a beggar man, but offer faith. There's an absolute path, no matter what it is you're dealing with, to get beyond it and get to a place that can be the very best that it can be in this lifetime. And that's what this mission is all about. The mission is about giving people the opportunity, giving them these tools and techniques of a different way of doing it. So many people are lost in ignorance, so many people are lost in medication, lost in therapies that don't work and in fact make it worse. They're chained to a doctor, they're chained to the different medications. So many medications just now getting dished out, just the way that the whole, pharmaceutical industry is set up, and how many people actually get better when they start taking the pills. A good kind of friend of mine, a close friend, probably a couple of months ago, he told me he just stopped his chemotherapy, and I kind of took a double take. Like, what do you mean? Like, because instantly you think of chemotherapy and you're thinking cancer straight away, and it was really for inflammation. He's got chronic rheumatoid arthritis, and he was in 2 different types of chemotherapy, and obviously the damage that's doing to him inside, you think of the level of radiation and toxicity that's in the chemotherapy, the pills and the medication he was taking, and the damage that it was doing to his body. And that's on the back of probably another 7 or 8 really strong, whether it's antipsychotic, whether it's antidepressants, whether it's the anti-inflammatories, the amount of people that are basically on prescription cocodamol just now, and what that does to the stomach and what that does to the physical body. Neither wonder that so many people are getting sick. So the intention with this, the whole thing, is to offer a different way. It really is. It's to offer a way back to make it the best that you can. You might not get back to the way that it was meant to be when you come in as a child, and that's something that, in future generations, it would be great to offer that, some way down the line. But for those of us in this state just now, that are in this place of survival, those that are going through this world and have been damaged or affected in a negative way, then, the tools and techniques, the process I'm taking people through, the desire is to heal in any way that you can. The desire is to get back to that way and place that was available to all of us, the best that you can make it. And that happens through the spiritual process. And that's why this work isn't about, it's not about the breath work, it's not about the cold exposure. There's not really any kind of specific modality that you say, this is what's going to do it for you. It's really the intentional, the program, it's really the entire process. And what's involved in that. It's the intentional life. There's so much goes into this, because once we go in, once we are able to basically switch off the body, and if you can't switch off the body, if your nervous system is switched on, this isn't going to work for you. So what you're eating, what you're putting into your mouth, what you're putting into your stomach, the caffeine, the sugars, the poisons, so many studies just now talking about the poisons that are in our food, especially the fast foods. I saw a thing the other day about how the tobacco companies basically went and formed all the kind of food companies. So many of the food companies that they fill the supermarkets now, and the ingredients that are in them that are designed, specifically to make you addicted to them and keep pulling you back. And then you see what these ingredients are and the detrimental effect it has on the physical body. And how so few people can see that, and I'm watching people coming in with this hyper-stimulated immune system from whatever, whether it's the traumas, the childhood traumas, no matter what it is, whether it's the medications through the vaccines, or choose your poison. Where's it coming from? If you are not able to switch off the nervous system, if you can't switch off the nervous system, you can't get to that place, if you can't switch off the mind, then all the other stuff, the reconnection back into the self, back into your heart and back into your soul, it can't happen. You need to switch off the mind. That's why for years and years, looking at mindfulness, I think it's probably a bit different now, but mindfulness, unless you know how to breathe properly, and I learned this from Patrick McKeown. First time I sat with Patrick McKeown, he talked about light breathing, and how you change the chemistry massively, and how that was a bridge back on the inside. And I literally broke into tears during this Zoom call. I can remember, I could feel the tears running down my face, because for years and years, the spiritual practice up to that point, 17, 18, 19 years that I've been doing it, the every single day, the meditations, the going inside, the reconnection with the divine, the enlightened experience that I had, that was really on the back of, because my nervous system was switched on, I couldn't sleep, so I was up every single night anyway. I was getting called out of bed, absolutely, but at the same time, even just the desire to switch myself off, I love being tired, even still to this day. I love to the point where I'm absolutely exhausted, which I have been the last couple of weeks because of the amount of work that I'm doing just now. I love being in that space, so the learning to breathe properly, the functional breath and the way that we do it, certainly the way that I do it, once we learn how to breathe functionally, I call it the intentional breath. The intentional breath and the power of intention to go back inside, once this is switched off, once the mind, once the head is switched off, then it's absolutely about reconnecting back into the self, back into your heart and back into your soul. It's in every single one of us, it really is. That's what I discovered. I'm just a guy that grew up, playing football on building sites. I was that guy. So for me now, again, as I mentioned at the weekend, talking about this stuff, talking about spirituality, talking about God and consciousness and meditation and the healings that are available to all of us, the transformations that can take place, the literal miracles that can take place, just by reconnecting back into that which is real, the real you, the authentic you, the higher self. And away from obviously the lower self, the ego, the mind, the intellect, your programs, your belief systems. So many people in this world have no idea who they are. I asked again on Sunday, who are you? Who are you really? And nobody knows. So few people know. They have no idea. The amount of people that came up at the end of it and thanked me because they were able to experience peace of mind for the first time. Again, that's like a literal miracle. The ability to switch off your head and give yourself a break from you as a starter for 10 to get out the head. Because, the head, the questions, the challenges, the problems, the answers that it's seeking, the conscious, logical thinking mind, its singular desire is like preservation. The ego's desire is preservation, self-preservation, lower self-preservation. So the ego and the mind is always trying to work out different ways to make it better for yourself. So the intentions are pure, but if you don't know how to control that, then you end up in a place of chronic stress. If you've got chronic stress in your head and all you're doing is constantly thinking, you end up with this kind of figure eight loop of not being able to switch it off. And that's where breathwork, a wee bit of kind of Almost not like power breathing. I don't believe in power breathing, but using a wee bit of good stress through the breath to go in and reset the brain, to basically switch the brain off. Bringing a wee bit of good stress is going to basically switch off the chronic stress. Also cold exposure as well, absolutely fantastic for switching off the brain. But once this is switched off, once we kind of switch off those questions and this constant kind of striving to get to this place that doesn't exist, which is madness, then we can go back inside and reconnect back into the self, back into the heart and back into the soul. Which is where all the good stuff is. That's the real you. This divine essence that I do believe we carry up in here somewhere, in these higher energy centres, back into your heart and back into your soul. That's what meditation's all about. And that's what everything I'm doing is all about, is a reconnection process back to that which is divine. We carry it inside of us, there is no question about it. I saw it again, I see it every single day. Literal miracles take place with this reconnection process. And that's what this mission is all about. The mission is about helping people reconnect, the reset and the reconnect back inside. And after Sunday, we did 4 dates. We're going to extend the tour and take it a wee bit further afield. The plan was to see how it went. Obviously, there's cost implications for us. The business is fairly young in terms of the way that it's now happening. We now have there's 2 other people. There's going to be 3 other people going to be involved, possibly even 4 other people. So we're expanding every single day. I've earned not a penny since January. Everything that's coming in through the programme and through the work that I'm doing, everything's going towards the mission, to the attempt. It's not to try, but to take it to the world. The intention is to take it to the world, help as many people as we can. And the way that I'm doing it and the way that it's unfolded, and especially after the water being closed at the weekend, Glasgow, Loch Lomond and Sunday was supposed to be the final date, but after a really kind of deep, profound meditation yesterday morning, and the realisation that I am so not about cold exposure anymore. It's a great skill, it's a great tool set, it's fantastic. I believe that everybody should know how to do it safely and effectively, having the benefits this morning. You don't need to breathe to get into the cold. How you breathe in the cold is significant. What's your reasons, what's your why when you're in the cold will get you through it. Once you've got the stress, once it's dumped in, that process that takes place could change your life. It could save your life, absolutely. Those that are dealing with kind of suicidal kind of tendencies or really kind of low, in that place of hopelessness or really broken, cold exposure will bring them right back into the moment. It's an absolute gift. But it isn't about that for me. It really isn't. This journey that I'm on, this mission that I'm on, it's all about the divine. It's about reconnecting people back into the self, which is divine. I am that I am, as all Moses said. I might not be the full thing, but I am absolutely part of it. I know that through meditation, through devotional practice over many, many years, hundreds of thousands of hours. I know who I am. I know the presence inside me, and I can also see it in everybody as well. I can feel it in everybody. So this mission is all about that reconnection process. So it's a spiritual journey. That's what I'm doing. I'm teaching spirituality. It's not about religion. Absolutely not. It's not about God. A lot of people see me as like talking about God. Well, it is about God, but it's not about the God that most people think there is. It's not me, trying to sell some sort of religion. I laugh when people talk about cults. That just makes me giggle. One of my students yesterday was saying how somebody said that it looks like a cult. In a cult, everything within a cult leads towards the leader. Everything within a cult, all the kind of roads leads towards the empowerment of the leader. And that's the complete opposite of what we're doing here. It's all about self-reliance. I'm trying to get this for myself. I'm trying to work this out for myself. I don't need anybody else's stuff. I'm in it for them to get it for themselves. It's all about self-reliance. It's all about that reconnection back to the divinity that I experienced through all those hours of meditation, that devotional path that I eventually got to, where everything changed and all my healing took place, even though there's still on occasion stuff coming up, even though I still struggle with the challenges of the world, my mental health, my physical health, absolutely because of the environment I'm in. But at the same time, the spiritual being that I am, I know who I am. Death is I don't fear death. I'm looking forward to it in some ways, to get back into the field, back into consciousness, to get away from this realm, absolutely. And the plan is to pass it on to as many people as possible, and that's a spiritual process. So that's why everything that I'm doing, all that I'm teaching, all that I'm sharing, is a reconnection back to the divine. God to me is a field of infinite possibilities. We come from it, I absolutely know. We carry it inside of us. When we die, we get back to it, we get back to spirit, back into spirit, but we don't need to die to get there. That's the thing, and that's why meditation is so important. The intentional life is what it's all about, taking back your power, taking back control, getting to that place that is possible, the best that you can make it in this lifetime, fulfilling your potential, getting to the end of your life and looking back and going, you know what, I did my absolute best. That for me is success. getting every single thing that you can along the way in terms of all the stuff that you desire. I believe that's part of it. Abundance is absolutely part of it. The ability to do what you want when you want, the ability to be happy, to be joyful, to be easy, to get it for yourself first and foremost, as I did, and then pass it on. That would be the plan. The students that are running about me just now, that's the plan for them, is to get it for themselves. And at that point, once they get it for themselves, then you need to pass it on. The world is in the bones of its arse. People are struggling. People are dying through suicide every single day. People are dying through medical complications and mystery viruses and stuff that's going on within hospitals. The amount of people that are basically taking their own life. It's insanity the world we're in just now, before you even add in things like war and all that kind of stuff. So the way is the way, as I always say. Back to the way it's meant to be, in alignment with the self, reconnection back to the self, which is what this Reset and Reconnect tour is all about. And then reconnection with each other. The amount of times I'm out walking, I've seen it again probably 4 or 5 times this week, middle of nowhere with a dog, and somebody will just walk straight past you, middle of nowhere, and they can't even acknowledge you. And I always say hello. I'll always say hello, and I'll send them my best. I'll literally feel as good as I can feel, and I'll just send them my best. It's done and dusted. It's a wee bit of intention just to send them wherever they are. You can see them buried in their head and overthinking and middle of nowhere, and they're stressing. A lot of times they're on their phone, and we've lost the connection with each other, absolutely. And again, with the reconnection with the earth, Mother Earth, as we experienced at the weekend, bare feet in the sand, bare feet in the grass, into the sea, feeling the presence and the power of Mother Earth, absolutely. So powerful, Mother Nature, and all the healing benefits that come from that, not just being in it, but eating from it in terms of how we're supposed to eat. Real foods that are grown in the earth, the proper supplementation that comes up through, the way the soil was meant to be before we absolutely obliterate it, whatever they're spraying in the skies and what they're putting onto the food to preserve it. Just madness, and really easy to see why so many people are getting sick. So that reconnection process with the self, with each other, with Mother Earth, with Mother Nature, and then it's the divine. Reconnection back to the divine, which is God, consciousness, the field, the divine mind, the source of all creation. That's what God is to me. When I'm talking about God, it's the source of all creation, and we carry it inside of us, every single one of us. That's what I learned. That's what I experienced with that quantum shift when I had that really profound. Happened 2 or 3 times, that meditation, where it came through and I became it. I got to see it from a different way, a different perspective, and that's what we're talking about. That's the stuff that I'm selling. That's what I believe is available to anybody. If it can happen for me, it can happen for anybody. And I think now, it took me 17 or 18 years every single day. I believe I'm a bridge builder. I believe I create shortcuts. That's why when I came across the breathwork, when I came across the cold exposure, they're just tools and techniques that enable this process to happen very, very quickly for anybody who's drawn towards it. Because once you switch off the head, once you're out the head and out the mind, then you get back into your feelings, back into your heart, back into your soul. And then the intention is enough to reconnect back to God, to hand it over, to surrender to the divine, to make that part of your life. It's something that is so missing just now. So many people are searching for stuff that doesn't exist. The amount of people that, I wouldn't even say they're soul searching, they're just lost and don't even know where to look. The minute you go online, or even you get on about a lot of these therapists and practitioners that are basically trying to help you find your way, there's so little of that works, but going inside, reconnecting back to yourself, elevating your feelings, elevating your emotions of how you're able to feel, feeling things like unconditional love, feeling what it feels like to be joyful, what it feels like to be happy, the power that's in well-being, the power of just being easy and being excited and looking forward to your life. That's how I believe we fix this world, and it happens through the process of reconnection. So that's what it's all about. It's all about the reconnection. So Sunday we go again, and the good news is that the tour is not finished. There's going to be at least another 2 dates, which I'm really excited about. It came through the other morning, and it's not going to involve cold exposure. I'm going to separate myself away from the cold exposure. The first one is going to be, we're taking a couple of weeks off. So this Sunday we're up in Loch Lomond, and then we're going to take a couple of weeks off. I'm not going to reveal the locations yet. I'm really excited about the locations. It's going to be really, really significant for me, stepping away from the cold and really standing on this process, which is unique to me. It's original to me. This reset and reconnect, back into your heart, back into your soul. The plan is absolute enlightenment, and enlightenment just means the realization and the direct experience of all that you are, out of the head and back into the heart, reconnecting and remembering. There's nothing to learn. I say that every single day. There's nothing to learn here. It's all about remembering, because it's still inside every single one of us. So after a couple of weeks, after Sunday, which I'm really looking forward to, anybody who's been up at Dundee, up at Aberdeen, anybody who's here last weekend, everybody's welcome. There's a good number signed up. Again, it'll be interesting to see how the weather holds up and how the hangovers hold up and how people actually manage to make their way there. But anybody who's interested in taking control, taking back their power, living this intentional life, Sunday we go again, 10 o'clock at Duck Bay Marina. We're going to go in, we're going to go deep. You know, it's a tool for healing, so you've been forearmed is forewarned, there's forewarned is forearmed, whatever it is. You now know what's going to happen. The desire to go inside, the desire to basically go right deep inside and see what it is that's holding you back, and then the opportunity to get it up and to let it go. And then we're going to replace it. We're going to go deep with the meditation. The plan is enlightenment, reconnection back to all that we are. And then once that's done and dusted, it's a couple of weeks off, and then there's going to be another 2 days at least. That's not going to involve cold exposure. It's simply going to be functional breathing, the intentional breath, which is my system, and profound meditation as a desire, and the reason we use it, the desire is to heal. To reconnect back to that divinity that's in every single one of us, and it happens in a moment. Once it happens, once the light comes back in, everything changes, and that's the plan. That's why it's darkness to light. So many people are suffering just now in darkness, which is ignorance. Absolutely, so many people are lost because they don't know where to turn. And in the power of awareness, you know, when you bring in that light of the divine, and you reconnect and you remember how you're able to feel, and in fact who you really are, then the whole world changes. And that's the plan. So excited for what's coming up. You can probably see images now. I'm excited again. This mission has been fantastic. You know, the amount of people that we've met, so grateful to every single one of you, the ones that have taken the time to come. And now what's happening is they're now messaging saying, when's the next one? You know, so the amount of people that have missed it because of, you know, different, whatever it is, the reasons they couldn't make it. There's going to be another couple of dates, a couple of weeks off, and then we go again. To reset and reconnect, it's going to be called the intentional breath. Absolutely. We're going inside, we're going deep, and we're taking back our power. Back to the way that it's meant to be, and that to me is really exciting. That's what I do believe I'm on this earth to do, is to share what I've learned over the last 27 years, and it happens very quickly. Inside a couple of hours, you're going to have tools, techniques, and a practice. You can go inside every single day and reconnect and remember the power that's inside of you. And at that point, the waves of this world, they didn't change. They're still going to be coming. In fact, they're going to get bigger, I do believe, what they're talking about in the world just now. The waves are going to get bigger. So the ability to switch off the head, to get out the head, out the mind, to reconnect back into your heart, back into your soul, I do believe that's the way, not just we get through it, but we get it back to the way that it's meant to be. Thank you for listening. Love and light to you and yours. Have a fantastic day wherever you are. Peace out as always. See you soon. God bless, and bye for now.